Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Liverpool show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, there has been some sort of updates in regards to a potential new contract being offered to Ibrahima Konaté, but we're also hearing conflicting news from sources in Spain. So, right now, we're pretty much stuck in the middle. We're not sure where the player is heading, but we can discuss that today in the show. And we've got some updates in regards to potential target in Adam Wharton and Bradley Barcola. So let's go on and start with the opening news. I would say today is regarding Ibu Konate. Now, earlier this evening, we had some sort of reports coming from Spain that the deal between Ibu Konate and Real Madrid is very advanced. Now, does that suggest that he's on the verge of moving to Real Madrid earlier than planned? And when I say earlier than planned, I'm suggesting in January, or is it just that they are having negotiations and putting all the T's and I's into the contract for Ibu to join them next summer? I've heard that it could be where they're trying to actually sign him for January. Now, big question is, would Liverpool accept that kind of deal for Ibu in January? Honestly, I wouldn't. I think it would be very unwise for us to accept that. Some fans will counter and argue to say that, well, look, we may potentially sign Mark Gahey in January. So if Ibu decides to go, then like for like, you've already got your replacement there, and financially might get a similar kind of fee as well. For me, I don't think that would be the route to go with. I think it makes more sense to add Margay to the current squad rather than sell a player to replace another one. That doesn't make sense for me because if we are going for Margay in the January window, it's to add him on top of our squad, not to uh, sell him or he's not coming in to replace anyone, if that makes sense. So I'm not too sure about this one. I don't think the rumors are true in regards to him being in advanced talks. What I will say is that, with recent comments about, yesterday he was asked about, potential move to Real Madrid, and he said it in tongue in cheek that, oh, Mbappe calls me every couple of hours trying to persuade me to join there. So those things, he's a joyful kind of person where he's always cracking jokes, but that was the kind of moment where you don't crack jokes, you pretty much give the PR answer where you're like, no, I'm a Liverpool player. For me, I'm not going to talk about any other team. My focus is on this season, and I'm not going to talk about my future. That would have been the sensible thing to do. But he didn't go along with that comment, and yeah, pretty much probably spoke his mind, which hasn't bode well with the Liverpool fan base. But it's one of those where I wouldn't want to sell Konate in January, regardless if he is staying or not. I feel like you have to look at our current season, for worth value. You have to look at, what we have as a squad, and you don't want to decrease your chances because a player hasn't fully committed to a squad. Now, when it comes to, summer transfer dealings, if a player isn't committed, then for me, that's the time to, sell that player. But when you're in a season, when you're in the mix and you're competing for different titles and different competitions, you don't weaken your squad just because you're having a bit of an issue. So some fans may disagree. Some fans would rather cash in on him in January. I feel like it hinders our season, it hinders our progress in different competitions and of course in the league as well. So I would rather keep Konate. And look, if he doesn't want to sign a new contract, it is what it is. You kind of just have to accept it. I'm not saying I'm going to, give him a red carpet and give him a round of applause for making that decision. For me, I would be very disappointed if he decides to, leave Liverpool and join Real Madrid. But Liverpool has to look at the bigger picture. If that is his stance, we have to accept it. We have to think forward and potentially find a replacement for next summer. So let's see what happens. My gut feeling is I don't think he'll stay. I hope I'm wrong, but I just get this sort of inkling that he's no longer interested in the project anymore, and I think he's been swayed to move over to Madrid. to join Mbappe, but not even just Mbappe. There's a lot of French players within that squad, so it's pretty much joining some of his mates there. And I feel like, he's probably been spoken to for quite some time regarding this move. So it's not a coincidence that, you know, Trent went on a free transfer with them being in pursuit for him for about 2, 3 years. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same parallel with Ibrahima Konaté as well. So it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in terms of these little cheeky comments in, interviews here and there. Um, I feel like his mind has been made up. But then, just before we had started the show about an hour ago, I saw some news that Liverpool have apparently submitted a new contract offer to Bukanate. And apparently Bukanate's agent is, currently reading through the terms and going through the details and all that malarkey. So my thoughts on that, I don't think there's any truth to that either. So both news that have come out today regarding Iba's contract, I don't think there's any truth to it whatsoever. Um, Apparently, Ibra has been offered 180K per week, so that is a pretty much 2.5 times what he's currently earning. But apparently, it's reported that Ibra wants to have 200K a week. So, big question: does he deserve that kind of pay rise? Are those demands warranted? I think so. Liverpool fans, not everyone, but some will definitely change their tune when it comes to these kind of scenarios. I've said it for a while. I rate Konate very, very high. I think he's one of the best defenders in Europe, and my stances are going to change because of this current, speculation that he may not sign a new contract or not. I still rate him. I still feel like he's a top defender, and I think he deserves to be in that kind of bracket because you've got the likes of Saliba, who's similar profile, similar age, similar sort of part of their career where they're top level, but they're on the verge of becoming world class if they continue to progress in that way. He's earning around that same kind of bracket, so it makes sense for him to earn that. But Liverpool have shown, in the past that if they don't think you're value for money, they also you on. Luis Diaz unfortunately got that treatment over the summer where we knew, he produced a great season for us last season, but he wasn't given a new contract either. He was told, "Look, this is your terms. If you want to continue and play for Liverpool, you have to continue with your current contract. Otherwise, you can find a move elsewhere." And that's what ended up happening where he's joined Bayern Munich. So I think he deserves that pay rise. I think he is merited based on the performances he's produced over the years, especially when he had Trent in the team. He pretty much was doing a two-man job at times. Trent would be inverting and having a free role in the middle of the park, and Ibrahim was playing centre back and right back for large parts of the season. So, I think he's got to play them back to have that new contract. But it might not just come down to a financial decision from Ibu. It might be where he feels like he needs another challenge, or he's been enticed by the project at Real Madrid. So that might be where he's heading towards. So just like yesterday, still very unclear. To those kind of breaking news that came about today. Haven't really given us a clearer picture, but drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think Ibu will stay, or do you think he'll join Real Madrid next summer? Only time will tell. Now, on to the next sort of news is Bradley Barcola. Now, if you watch my show in the last few months, you'll know I'm a big fan of Bradley Barcola. So whenever we were linked with him, I'll say about a month ago, I was definitely excited about that prospect, um, especially as it looked like his future was unclear at PSG. Some would regard him as a squad player. When I watched him for PSG last season, he was a starter for large parts of the season. Picked up a bit of an injury, so he was more of a rotated player towards the latter stages of last season. But when it comes to numbers, producing the goals and assists, his tally was very, very high, very impactful for this team. Can play on the left, can play on the right. His finishing definitely needs a bit more, you know, improving in terms of being more clinical. But if he's picking up 40 assists and goals and assists in the season, but he's not the finished article when it comes to finishing. Just wait until he does become that guy. So the current news today, uh, which felt like a dagger to my heart, is that PSG and Barcola are set to engage in talks regarding a contract extension in the coming days. He's likely to be offered a bumper deal until 2030. Now, am I surprised about this news? Not one bit. I rate the player very, very highly. I believe that's the same feeling at PSG as well, and it's always been on the cards for him to obtain new terms and an extended contract. So I think it's going to go, towards that route where he will get his new contract because PSG have a different philosophy now. They're not just signing mega stars from all over the world. They're trying to sign young French players with huge potential that can be the core of their team, and that's what they're doing right now with the likes of Bradley Barcola, Desiree Doué. These guys are the future of French football. So they wouldn't want to sell Bradley Barcola just like that because he's not playing week in week out. When you're competing for major honors, you have to have a strong squad. So it depends on these players. Are they going to live up to the bill? Are they going to step up and perform at a high level? It comes down to their mentality. So in terms of quality, he's got it, but is he mentally strong enough to fend off any challenges? Whether it's Kvaratskhelia or Desiree Doué, because there are large parts of last season in at PSG where Desiree Doué had to play in a more of a midfield role and accommodate the likes of Bradley Barcola in the team because he was in such scintillating form. So I feel like he's a future. At PSG, and I also think it's the future of French football. That's how much I rate Bradley Barcola. And I think that'll be evident when he plays in the World Cup because I'm very much sure he will be selected for the French national team. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. This is a player that's going to get a new contract, and yeah, Liverpool have to look at other potential targets if that was ever on the cards. But yeah, it looks like he's committed to uh, staying at PSG for the long term. So yeah, bit of a sad one for me, but that's how it goes sometimes. Now, another player that has been linked with Real Madrid is Crystal Palace's midfielder Adam Wharton. Now, surprise, surprise. I feel like Real Madrid are kind of like some of our Premier League rivals where they're lazy. They don't have their own scouts. Whoever Liverpool want to buy, they're linked with them right the way. We've got Mark Gay, whose future is up in the air because Mark Gay, was very close to joining Liverpool. But right now, it's you would assume that the logical approach would be that we go for him in January again and get him through the door in the next few months. But it could be a different stance. The club might not want to do that. They might feel like because of the way the deal panned out, it's left a bad taste in their mouth. So maybe they're like, maybe we just wait until the summer game on a free transfer. And Mark Gay might feel the same thing as well. He might feel like, you know what, I'm not going to commit or let you guys have any benefits of even like a cut price deal in January. So he might decide to say, look, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna be a professional, do my give my all to the team. But next summer, I'm leaving on a free. And whether it's at Liverpool or not, I can't say with chest that it will be Liverpool because there has been interest from other clubs. But my indication is that I think Mark Hayes still wants to make that move to Liverpool. Um, Now, in terms of dealing with Steve Parish again, that's going to be a bit of an issue because, you know, he went to a Pilates class on the last day of the transfer window, and that unfortunately scuppered our deal to sign Mark Gahey. So if we were to sign Adam Wharton, we had to do early negotiations. I say start right now if we want to sign him next summer because they don't want there to be any excuses of us not trying to sign him. In terms of the player, I think he's a fantastic talent. He would fit our team very, very well. I feel like he'd give us a great balance where he would be very sort of compatible to the other midfielders in our team. So I feel like he could form a great partnership with Gravenberch. I think he could form a great partnership with the likes of McAllister, Jones, even Endo if he was still around because he's a hybrid in my eyes. He's a number six that can, do the dirty work in terms of close up shop, um, and intercept and make crunching tackles. But he can do the other part of the game, like a number eight, where he's very, very good on the ball, great passing range, dictates the play with his tempo, and I feel like he's got great energy, can be box to box if we need him in that kind of role. Left footed, so gives us a different balance in our team. So I feel like he'd be a fantastic addition to our squad. Now, in terms of the transfer fee, he might cost us a bit, maybe towards the 70, 80 million pound mark. But I don't feel like we're going to sign a lot of players next summer. I think it will just be a few quality additions, and that's the sort of the motto or the philosophy going forward because we did a lot of our work this summer. We've signed a lot of players, and I feel like that's going to be the same going into next season. So let's see, what happens with Adam Wharton. I expect him to be one of our prime targets, but it looks like Real Madrid want to crash the party once again. They try and take our players on a free, but they also want to target some of our players as well. So we'll see what happens. If I'm being honest, I don't see him moving there. I think if Wharton was to move, I can see him joining a team like Liverpool or Man City. I think that would be his most likely destination. I'm not saying he's not good enough to play for Madrid. I just feel like they're very much stocked in that department. They've got the likes of Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde. These players are pretty much shooing in their starting lineup. But I will say this, if there is any truth to this rumor that Adam Wharton is a prime target for Real Madrid, they'll have to sell one of their players. And I would like for Liverpool to be first in line to sign someone like Camavinga. I think that would be the perfect signing for us. Similar kind of style in terms of Adam Wharton, but I feel like he's got more to his game. So yeah, if they want Wharton, then we'll talk. We'll take Camavinga off their hands as well. That's what I think Liverpool should do. But very very early to see, make those kind of suggestions. But that's the way I would think. If there is any truth to this, we've got to pursue Camavinga because I feel like he would be a fantastic signing for us. But let's see how this news evolves in the coming months. Now, before we close the show, just going to speak about some internal stuff. Ekitike has spoken about the arrival of Alexander Isak, and quote unquote, he said, "When you play for the best teams, you inevitably expect to be competing with the best players, and Isak is among them. Seeing him arrive is a pleasure. It's going to be tough competition, but I'm going to work hard to be good and perform at my best." So, very encouraging words there from Ekitike. Shows me he's got strong mentality. It shows me that he's got strong belief on his skill set, and rightly so. I don't feel like Ekitike will just be a direct backup to Isak. I think there will be a lot of games this coming season where they'll play together, whether it's in a two-man strike force or if Ekitike is playing on the left, or maybe Isak's playing on the left and Ekitike through the middle, vice versa. I feel like they've both got a huge role to play in Liverpool's success, and we're very blessed to have these two strikers in our squad. A couple of months ago, Newcastle fans were dreaming of this scenario, thinking that this was going to be their strike force, and they were going to revert to a 4-4-2. How times have changed, because that is not the case. We've definitely pinched their idea, and we've literally taken two of their players off them. So for me, it's going to be an exciting time going forward to see how Arsenal best both these players together. I think it can work. It won't be an orthodox sort of formation where Ekitike is an out and out left winger and Isak's a striker, or vice versa. It's going to be where both players will interchange during the game. And I feel like it could be, a tricky tactic for our opponents because they'll find it very difficult to mark these two players because they won't be able to pinpoint a certain player or a certain defender on these players. So for me, it's going to be fascinating in terms of how the team's going to develop together. And look, we've got such a great balance and such a great combination in our team. We've got the likes of Gakpo, Salah, Verts, Szoboszlai, McAllister. These players providing the ammunition for these strikers to, hit the ball in the back of the net. So it's exciting times. I'm looking forward to our upcoming games once this international break is done. Now, in terms of international breaks, today Isak um, made his first appearance in a very, very long time. He managed to play 25 minutes for Sweden against Kosovo for a World Cup qualifier. Unfortunately for Sweden, they lost the game 2-0. But in terms of the compilations that I've seen of him, he looked very sharp, considering he hasn't played any competitive football since last season. Uh, so I think that the process for Liverpool would be to slowly ease him in and embed him to the team. I don't think he'll start against Burnley, for example. I think we'll allow him to train, to his kind of level because he might be given a completely different training plan to everyone else where, it's individually focused and he needs to, do a certain regime or a certain program to get back to full fitness, and that's when we'll see him in a Liverpool shirt. If I have to make a prediction, I predict that he'll possibly make his first start against Everton on the 20th of September, which is not too far away. Um, and how amazing would it be if he was to score a bang or score the winner in that game? That would be, things that James have made. So that's what I'm envisioning right now. But I'm excited to see both players in the team, and yeah, it should be scary hours for our opponents because not a lot of teams have this kind of level of strike force in their team. And we've got real gunmen. Both of them are. So yeah, the league has been warned as well as the teams in Europe. So yeah, exciting time to be a Liverpool fan. And that is it for today, guys. Short episode, but thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, we might have a show tomorrow or potentially it'll be on Thursday as we do um, the match preview of Burnley versus Liverpool. But as I always say, make sure you hit that notification bell so you know what time we're going live. Sometimes it might be a bit more spontaneous. Like today, I wasn't planning on doing a show, but I thought, why not? Let's talk about some of the breaking news, some of the the talking points amongst fans in social media. So I thought, why not we have that discussion today? Um, and yeah, it should be a good one. And then hopefully I will be able to do the live watch along of that game that takes place, I believe, on Sunday. So yeah, hopefully we don't have any injury issues. That's always a concern after an international break. I also just realized earlier on today that we have another international break in 1 month's time. So yeah, very, very annoying when these things occur. But fortunately, you've got to take it on board and yeah, just go roll with it, I guess. So yeah, it is what it is, I guess. Just got one comment here before we close the show. From Daz, who says, "Big up Aussie. Do you think Frimpong will be back for Sunday?" I think he will be in the squad, but I don't expect him to start so soon. Just coming from a hamstring injury, you have to monitor his progress and just make sure you're not rushing him. So I think he'll be in the squad. Um, be interesting to see what Arsenal does. Does he start with Szoboszlai, who's been magnificent in the last two games, or does he bring back Conor Bradley because he has, trained a little bit more than Frimpong, for example. Joe Gomez is also an option as well, but I wouldn't, rush Joe Gomez so soon because Konate thought picked up an injury, but it was actually cramped. So hopefully he's not, feeling any of that effect because he's on international duty now as well. Um, so no, I think Frimpong will be on the bench. It's going to be intriguing to see who starts on Sunday. Is it Szoboszlai? Is it going to be right back? We'll discuss it in our match preview show coming up this week. Russ, big up Russ. He says surprise Nuno has been sacked tonight by Forest. I just saw the breaking news before we went live. Yeah, crazy. Sort of turn of events there. But at the same time, I'm not hugely surprised because the owner is a character, to say it very politely. There was already a very visible rift between the two gentlemen. So the writing was always on the wall in terms of a sacking. I didn't expect it to be so soon, if I'm being brutally honest. 3 games in, and it's not like they've had a bad start. I think they've done all right, but it's just the timing, and it's just like not really giving him a chance to continue from such a great season last year. They definitely surpassed everyone's expectations. Even if you're the most optimistic Forest fan, it's safe to say, no one expected them to be challenging for a European spot. So I think it's a shame. I think it's terrible news for Nuno because I don't feel like, it's deserved, it's not warranted. It's clearly, the decision's clearly been based on personal issues between the two people. So yeah, it's mad. We're interested to see what happens with Nuno now because I think if there's any team that are struggling or they need to find a new manager, Nuno could be someone that is in contention. He showcased his managerial credentials last season. Some may, argue and say, look, his style of play wouldn't suit a top six team or anything like that, but it doesn't need to necessarily be a top six team that tries to sign him. It could be, another team like a West Ham who, with Graham Potter's future up in the air. Manchester United, with Ruben Amorim, his future not very clear right now. Of course, the style of play would be not to United's sort of satisfaction, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think United fans have much to say right now because they're in the mud. So if they're not performing well, I think they'd happily accept a manager like Santos, who would come in, balance the ship and get some wins on the board because right now they're praying for wins more than anything else. So, yeah. So in terms of from a personal point of view for Nuno, it's a shame. I don't think he was warranted, but I'm not hugely surprised just because of the owner. His temperament. He seems like a very fiery character. He pretty much um, held Morgan's Give White at hostage level to sign a new contract. So yeah, I'm not surprised in terms of how it panned out, but yeah, it's just how it is. Unfortunately, this is the the way football business is operated now. If you're not in good terms with the owners, you get dismissed anytime, and that has been proof in the pudding for a number of managers over the years. So unfortunately, you know from Nuno's point of view, I was quite surprised that he was very open about his relationship with the owner. He's a quite a transparent person, but I felt there's certain things you don't reveal to the public. So, he was quite clear that, the relationship isn't good, it's very strained right now. We're not on good talking terms, but we're focused on the team. That's not great way to, talk about your owners. So I'm not surprised by the news. I'm probably more surprised about the timing, more than anything else. So yeah, it's a shame for him, but his stock is high, so maybe he'll be able to get a good move in the near future. Russ says Ange is the favorite for the job. I saw that as well, and it's such a funny, it's not funny, but it's such a crazy sort of candidate because you've got Nuno who's ultra defensive, and then Ange is completely polar opposite. It's night and day in terms of how they see the game. So I don't know how Forest fans will feel. I would love to know what they would think about this sort of potential new appointment of Ange Postecoglou because he'll bring, attacking football to the City Ground, but is that what they want? Because when you're playing that kind of level, the defense, might be a bit more fragile. You might concede more goals, and that's not been Nottingham Forest's game of the last couple of years. They've been very much defense first, solid in the back line, and always hitting teams on the counter. Whether you like it or not, that's irrelevant. It's a formula that they developed and it worked well for them. And they did really well last season. So yeah, it's a strange one, but maybe because he's the only Premier League profile manager available, that's probably why we're hearing those links. But let's see. I don't know if it will be Ange. I think there might be someone else in the mix. But yeah, we'll see how that story develops in the coming days. Stas, I sent you another DM Aussie with Champions League FPL pin. Thank you, Daz. I've never actually done the Champions League FPL pin. So if I do join, I'll definitely join your league. LFC 20B, so LFC 20 says Nuno to United. I just mentioned it. It's not a crazy shout, is it? Because he will definitely, settle the ship and make sure that they're solid defensively. Because I think that's one of United's issues. Well, one of many issues, to be brutally honest. But he would bring that kind of still to the side, a bit more structure. The defense will be tactically set a bit more compact, so it could work out for them. But I don't know if he fits their profile because they would have looked at his stint at Tottenham Hotspurs and that didn't work out clearly. So maybe they don't want to go through that route as well. So who knows? I feel like this season we'll probably see a lot of managers, facing a sack. I think Graham Potter, unfortunately, um, is one that might be quite sort of high on that list. Just because they had a very nervous start. I know they managed to get the win recently, but generally speaking, it's not been the way they wanted to start the season. So a West Ham, could be a potential destination for Nuno. I think of other teams in the league. There hasn't been any other teams that I feel like have shown, any frailties in their game or manager under fire. I think the only manager under fire right now would potentially be Graham Potter. Um, not too sure. I think West Ham would make sense. Um, but I think it would depend on results because they wouldn't want to sack Graham Potter so soon. I think Graham Potter's a good coach, um, and he just needs a bit more time to work with his squad and get them to play the way he wants to play the game. So yeah, only time will tell. But I think he'll definitely have some suitors, that's for sure. Russ says I wouldn't mind him at my club, which is Leeds, if Farke leaves at any point. What do you think of Farke? Are you happy with him as your manager? Because I know a lot of Leeds fans weren't happy with the business that was conducted in the summer. I think Leeds would be a good shout as well. If Farke has some sort of issues or he's not picking up the results, Nuno would be a great signing, great appointment for Leeds United. So yeah, definitely, you can't rule out that kind of club. So yeah, let's see how it goes for he like I said, he'll definitely have suitors. So he won't need to rush. I think he can wait for a solid project to be presented. I think that's when he'll make his decision. Uh, Adrian Dante Vigo. So he says Real Madrid will sign Konate on a free. I'll be honest with you. As a Liverpool fan, I have that inkling as well. I don't think Real Madrid will sign him in January, which is what I've read online today. I think it will be where he joins next summer. Um, yeah, I just feel like in terms of some of the comments he said recently, and it just his demeanor. Not only that, we've been trying to negotiate a contract extension for about 10 months now, so it's almost a year, and we've made no progress. There's rumors today that we've offered a new contract. Whether those terms are exactly what he wants, I'm not so sure. There's no sort of clarity in regards to his demands, and I'm sure we won't get that kind of news either. But I think Real Madrid have done the groundwork, like Real Madrid did with Trent Alexander-Arnold. They haven't just spoken to him today; they have been speaking to him for months, even I'd say years, if I'm being honest with you. And I feel like his head might be swayed to go to Real Madrid. Of course, there's a lot of French players there, so he'll be joining that contingent and you know reunite with some of his French teammates as well. So I can see him going there. Unfortunately, I just hope Liverpool are ahead of the game. They are scouting all over Europe and finding the next potential replacements because the centre back market is not very blessed when it comes to high quality centre backs. I think Mark Gay should be the one that comes in to replace him on paper, but then we might need an additional centre back. So if Mark Gay is the one that comes in to replace Konate, I actually wouldn't mind it. Slightly different in terms of profile, where Konate is more of a physical, strong tackling defender, whereas Mark Gay is a strong tackling defender, but he's a better defender on the ball. He's a ball playing defender. So I feel like that suits our game a lot more, and he can definitely play alongside Van Dijk, maybe even be regarded as his long-term successor. So he's very versatile. He's both-footed, can play with his left foot or right foot, can play in the back three, in the back four. Great technical ability. Scored a fantastic goal the other day in the Premier League against Aston Villa. So he's definitely a player of high value. Um, so I think we'll get Mark Gay, and unfortunately, it would mean that Konate joins Real Madrid. But no money exchange. So if it's on a free, then I'm not mad at that. So yeah, let's see what happens. Although I'd probably rather have Mark Gay in January rather than next summer. LFC 20 says sick of Madrid getting our players on a free. Something has to be done about it. Yeah, I agree. I'm sick and tired of it as well. It's just very low ball slash unethical. Way of doing business because it's not like they speak to the players when the season starts or 1 or 2 months before January. This has been, done in the groundwork for a long, long time. They've got players acting like agents, Kylian Mbappe in his ear telling him to join. So, it's not the right way of doing things, but that's how the Spanish giants operate. Real Madrid and Barcelona, that is what they do. They've done it in the past, and I don't think they'll stop either. So in terms of, for us, that it needs to be stopped. Yeah, it does. I understand that, but maybe we gotta have a bit more of a ruthless kind of way of operating where if a player hasn't signed a contract extension 2 years before it expires, then we move them on rather than wait for them to, you know, go to their last year because then you don't know it's hit or miss. And right now we've been missing. If it's Trent and if Konate go, that's 2 out of 2 players that have gone out on a free in back-to-back years. So yeah, I think that's how Liverpool need to operate going forward. But let's see how it goes. But unfortunately, it's just the way the modern game is. Player power is more of a thing nowadays. So unfortunately, players will get their move if that is what they desire. Um, Alexis says Nuno to Crystal Palace if their manager Goose goes to United. Is he linked to United? That's interesting. Crystal Palace would be a good one as well. I think that'd be a solid um, appointment for them. Glasner to United. That's interesting. I didn't even know that was a rumor. Um, not Glasner's biggest fan right now. I'm being honest with you because of the whole Mark Gay deal and him, acting like a bitch, saying, he's going to walk out if he sells. So yeah, giving that kind of ultimatum doesn't, bode very well for me. Uh, but let's see. It'll be interesting to see where Nuno goes. I think Nuno will stay in the Premier League. Um, for some reason, I feel like West Ham might be the destination. I don't know why, but that's the that's the kind of link in my head right now. I feel like that's the move that I can see happening. But let's see what happens in the future. Russ says, I'm more annoyed with our owners rather than Fark. If I'm honest, mate, they've given him 2 extra attacking options, which he said he needs. Yeah, I think that was one of the concerns that I heard as well, that not enough attackers in the squad. Um, but yeah, hopefully, Leeds United have enough in the locker to stay up this season. Leeds United, of course, such a you know passionate fan base as well. Such great fans in terms of and great success over the years as well. Ellen Road is still very much known as a very sort of hostile environment when teams go over there. So it'd be nice for them to stay for another year at least. But yeah, let's see how the season unfolds. Russ says to Trent to Madrid was for 8.4 runs to 10 rather than a free. Yeah, the original was the because his contract finished, but of course they wanted to um, sign him earlier than planned because of their participation in the Club World Cup. But generally, it was pretty much free transfer because we didn't sign a new contract with him. We probably just got lucky with regards to the Club World Cup. So all of us fans saying, "Oh, it was a waste of time," in terms of that being a pre-season competition. Liverpool getting 10 million from it. So yeah, we didn't we didn't play a game and we still got 10 million. So not a bad day in the office for Liverpool. Um, AFC 26 Vernon, how much would he be if we sold him? Um, SC20 says Glasner wants the United job. He has made it known. No links though. Is it? Okay. That's an interesting link, if I'm being honest with you, because from a United point of view, I don't actually think that it solves anything. Glasner has the same philosophy as Ruben Amorim. They both like to play with a back three and they like to play wing backs. So, you know, if the current squad isn't ticking under Amorim, there's nothing to suggest that it will tick for Glasner. Of course, Glasner is the more experienced manager, so you might give him that kind of benefit of the doubt. But I feel like they're using the players in the wrong position. Like seeing Ahmad play as a right wing back doesn't make sense to me. Um, you've got Cunha and Bremo playing as more as inside forward. So, the fullback that they signed in January, Dogu looks like a fantastic talent, but he's more than capable of playing as left back in a back four. So I feel like looking at their squad, they're more suited to playing like a 4-2-3-1 formation rather than a 3-4-3. And that is a formation that both Amorim and Glasner like to present. So yeah, I don't know if that's an upgrade if United were to go that route, but that's a United problem, not something for me to ponder about too much. Russ said we've done well in 2 out of our 3 games. Everton, Newcastle, we don't talk about the Arsenal result game. I was about to say, yeah, we probably got to miss that one for today's discussion. Forest confirmed Nuno second. Yeah, I saw it earlier on. Yeah, it's a shame for Nuno. I don't think it's deserved. But when you've got an owner that is a fiery character and passionate, sometimes that passion can be represented very differently. Passion can be taken as, that you care about it, but then about the project or you care about the club, but it can also be a problem because, when you're thinking of through emotions, you're making emotional decisions based on nothing involving the football pitch. They've had a breakdown in communication. Their relationship has been in in a bit of a strain right now. So because of that, that's the reason why he's got sacked. It was nothing to do with what's happened on the pitch. So yeah, it's a strange one, but let's see what happens for Nuno and what happens to Forest in terms of who they try to appoint next. NXT20 says Glasner is a better manager than Amorim for me. If he does go, I think he might get a tune out of United. Could be wrong though. No, you're spot on. I would say Glasner is the better manager based on experience and based on what we've seen over the last few years. He took Frankfurt to a European final, so we know his capabilities, and we know he's won silverware for Frankfurt and for Crystal Palace. Um, but it will depend on the club's vision. Is it just as simple as just changing manager because Amram is a right fit, or have they realized that they've made a mistake and they shouldn't have gone for Amram because Amram is very stubborn with his tactics. He wants to play a 3-4-3 formation and there's nothing else more to it. Have they realized that that wasn't the manager we should have gone for? We shouldn't have gone for a manager that is very sprung on that formation. We should have gone for someone that is a bit more adaptable or has a primary formation of a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, and then we'll change the formation differently from a tactical point of view. That would be based on who they recruit next if Amron gets a set, which I'm hoping he's not, because I would love for him to stay for a very long time. I was also hoping Anana stayed there for a long time, but it looks like he's over to Japanspor very very soon. So yeah, sad day in the Premier League that he's leaving. But in terms of Amrin, if his days are numbered, I'm very intrigued to see what they do because if he's sacked and they get Glasner, then it just basically means that Amrin was a fraud. That's how I would look at it. But if they've gone for a different manager who has a different philosophy, a 4-2-3-1/4-3-3, then that would tell me that it was just the wrong appointment. It wasn't based on Amrin, and that kind of you know puts him in a situation where he can probably not the right term, but can at least leave United with a little bit of dignity because he will just say, "Look, it just didn't work." I didn't have the squad, or he can make up whatever excuses he want. But for United, if they feel like the current squad they have is suited for 4-2-3-1 formation, for example, but they go and get another coach that does 3-4-3, and that's a static formation, then they're making more errors as time goes on. So yeah, let's see what they do. But I'm not here to give any advice to Man United. Russ says, Nottingham Forest Football Club confirms that following recent circumstances, Nuno Espirito Santo has today been relieved of his duty as head coach. Yeah, that's definitely how it feels. The club thanks Nuno for his contribution during a very successful era at the City Ground, in particular his role in the 2004-2025 season, which will forever be remembered fondly in the history of the club. Uh, as someone who played a pivotal role in our success last season, he will always hold a special place in our journey. I think this could be a decision that they regret. Honestly, I'm not saying Forest are going to get relegated. I'm not going to go to that extreme. But whoever they appoint, they've better have done their homework. They've got to make sure he's the right candidate, he's the right person to take this team forward, because the current squad are literally an embodiment of Nuno's tactics and Nuno's philosophy. So if you've got someone coming in like an Ange Postecoglou, he's going to completely change the dynamics, and the team will play a different way of football, and it might not gel straight away. So I'm intrigued to see who they appoint. You'd expect it to be a like for like kind of replacement, but who's out there? In world football where they can replace that kind of tactics that Santos presented. Yeah, very very intrigued to see what happens. AR, big up AI says, big up everyone, smash the like and subscribe. Appreciate you coming on the show, AR. AR says Liverpool fixtures: Burnley, Atletico Madrid, Everton, Southampton, Palace, Galatasaray, Chelsea. Some very, very exciting games there. Looking forward to the return of the Champions League. Um, Merseyside Derby, that'll be interesting. That's at their stadium, isn't it? So let's see how that will pan out, because, of course, no, it's at Anfield, sorry. But our fixture with Everton and their new stadium will be in April. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out, because Goodison Park was a very hostile stadium. The crowd was very close to the pitch, so you'd know you're in for a tough day when you're facing Everton, and with the noisy fans in the back as well. But we're interested to see if I'd able to replicate that same kind of atmosphere in their new stadium. But in terms of the upcoming fixture, it'll be at Anfield. So yeah, looking forward to that one. And Galatasaray, that's over at Istanbul. That's going to be a fiery one, nonetheless. Um, Mr. Palace as well. So we potentially facing Mark Gay. So yeah, some good fixtures there. Southampton looking forward to it, because we'll get to see the likes of Leone, Chiesa, some of the squad players, see them in action. Rio might get a run out in that game as well as Trey Leone. So yeah, should be exciting. And I think of course, the signing of Isak is a huge plus. Of course it is. But the timing is even better, because we've got a lot of games coming quick and fast now. We're only in September, and we're going to be playing back-to-back games because the Champions League has started now as well, as well as the Carabao Cup third round. So we need our squad. We need to rotate. We need to make sure that we rotate early, because I think that was one of the negatives to take from last season in terms of Arne Slot's first season, where I don't think he rotated enough in the early parts of the season, and I think that ended up having an impact towards the latter stages. So hopefully he's learned from that, and yeah, he can kind of learn from his mistakes there and rotate the squad a little bit more. And this year around, we've got a very very good squad, so yeah, it should be easy to rotate a lot more now. AR says we need centre back for cover. On paper, we've got four centre backs, so we should be fine. Of course, the question marks will be in regards to the likes of Joe Gomez in terms of his availability. But if he stays fit, then we've got adequate cover. Also, we've got other players that can be makeshift, like an Endo who can come in and play centre back. So for now, I'm not concerned. Of course, I would have loved to have had Gay in our squad, because I think he would have given us so much solidarity in our back line, gave us that assurance, and we could rotate the squad a bit more and not feel sort of a dip in quality um, in the squad. So let's see. Hopefully, we revisit and sign him in the January window. Whether that happens or not, it's a bit unclear. If I was to make a prediction, if you wanted to get my thoughts, I think we do go for another bid in the January window, and I think we'll try and sign him in the next few months. AR said we need Kaiser for squad depth. Well, he's not been selected for the Champions League squad, which is a huge blow. He was linked to a move to Besiktas yesterday because their window closes in 3 days' time on the 12th. So because of that, I'm not surprised that he's been linked with a move to the Turkish Super League. But that rumor has kind of gone a bit cold. It doesn't looks like that's anything on the cards. Mainly due to I think Besiktas wanting a loan deal and not wanting to sign him on a permanent basis, which is the only deal I think Liverpool would accept. But I think we need to keep Keza. We need to make sure he is available for our squad. Unfortunately, he won't be available for the Champions League for the first phase, but at least he'll be an option for the Premier League and also the cup games as well. So he'll definitely feel deflated by not being selected, but I'm sure he's a more professional and he'll give everything he can whenever called upon. And I expect him to be more impactful in the league in comparison to last season. Um, LFC 20 says, I think Amrin has got until next international break to turn United around or he gets sacked. Yeah, but that's not a bad shout to be fair because the next international break is in 1 month's time. So he's got another month. So let's see how he does. Um, yeah, like most managers would have been sacked after that Grimsby fixture, if I'm being honest with you. That one was a very very huge low for any club, but for a club of United stature, that was a dark day for them. So let's see. I just have a feeling that they'll wait a little bit longer. I think they'll wait until December and see what he does. And if it's really, really gone pear shaped, then they'll dismiss him. They'll bring someone in, and then hopefully that manager will say, bring out that checkbook. I need to sign a few players to, you know, get the ball rolling here, and then that's when United do their business, and probably end up signing a few dodgy players. But that's just that's how I see it going. But let's see. I've been very surprised that Amrin lost the whole season. I really will. Um, AR said Isak needs to be match fit and need a proper training session. Yeah, that'll be underway very soon. I'm sure he'll be given a private, not private, but like a personal training regime to work hard. He might probably do his own private sessions after the team training just so he can regain that match fitness. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays, in like behind closed doors kind of fixtures that a lot of clubs do during the season. So yeah, I think it's only a matter of time that he's in the mix. I expect him to play against Burnley, probably off the bench, and then Everton, and then I think no, I think he'll start against Everton, and then Atletico Madrid. I expect him to be on the bench for that as well. So yeah, just slowly get him into the right speed, and then once he's there, we'll be able to unlock our gunman to the world. So yeah, hopefully it's sooner rather than later. AR says our bench: Mamadashvili, Woodman, Bradley, Robertson, Reece Williams. Can't believe Reece Williams still there. Gomez, Leone, Endo, Bastard, Jones, Keda, Neoni, Rio, Isak needs to be much fit, and Dan's. Oh yeah, Dan's is still there, isn't he? Yeah. So yeah, I don't think those are bad options at all. Are we going to use Reece Williams, Calvin Ramsey, Bastich, and Dan's? I think we'll use the latter two. So I think Bastich, once he's fit, he'll be a viable option in that midfield. Dan's could be used in cup games, but not more than that. If I'm being brutally honest with you, I'll be very surprised to see Bruce Williams and Calvin Ramsey partake in any fixture, let alone Carabao Cup ties. So no, I don't expect them to be used. I expect them to be moved on in January, whether it's on a permanent basis or on a loan basis. I don't expect them to be in the first team squad unless we pick up injuries, which touch wood we don't get. Um, but yeah, I'm not expecting them to be part of the first team. AI said, will you use Sabot or Frimpong or Bradley in right back? Is that in regards to the next fixture or in general? In terms of the next fixture, it will just depend on the squad. I wouldn't go with Frimpong only because he's just returned from injury, so I wouldn't want to rush him so soon. And because it's a hamstring injury, you've got to be very careful in terms of how you manage your players. Um, just to give you a bit of a sneak peek, I would probably go with Bradley at right back. That would be my choice. Uh, the suppose I start, I'll confirm that in my match preview. But I would play Bradley in that fixture. Uh, oh, but you've asked me who will be in the double pivot, Macro, Rambert, or Sabodell Jones. Um, I'd go for McAllister. No, sorry, I'd go for Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. That would be my double pivot. So yeah, that would be my double pivot for the next game. Uh, for a number of reasons, I think McAllister hasn't looked, very sharp. He's not been fully match fit, in my opinion, and also, he's probably been traveling. I don't, because I haven't really kept note into the way he's played for Argentina, but I'm sure he's playing in South America. So due to that, you can't expect him to travel across the across the world and then come back with one or two maximum training sessions and be ready to start in those kind of games. Remember, we made that mistake with him last season against Forest, and we lost that game, and also couldn't stop talking about it. So I don't think he'll be making that same mistake again. I'm expecting Szoboszlai and Gravenberch to be in a double pivot. They'll give us the right energy, that physical presence against a very physical team in Burnley. So I think that would be the right combination. But maybe my mind will change, if we get further news in terms of certain players' availability. So that's why, make sure to tune into the match preview and then we can talk in a lot more detail. AR said, if Isak is match film ready, we'll use Gakpo or Ekitike on the left wing. Me personally, I would start with Ekitike on the left wing, but I can see Isak and Ekitike, rotating or interchanging during the game. So that would be my way of setting up or placing, I would say, both Ekitike and Isak in the starting lineup. Clancy's thinking about Real Madrid move. Yeah, it looks like it. Got conflicting reports today that one source is saying that they're in advanced talks with Real Madrid. Another source is saying that Liverpool have offered him a new contract for him to sign. So who knows? Um, AR said we are potentially Van Dijk injury. We might struggle. Are you saying we are potentially Van Dijk injury away? Because I haven't checked in terms of intentional. I'm hoping not suggesting that he's injured because yeah, bloody hell, that'd give me a bit of a heart attack. I understand if that is what you're saying. We're just one injury away from Van Dijk, but personally, I don't like to think like that because it's very negative. Um, secondly, I feel like we have players that can come in and do a job. The only issue would be that you'd expect the likes of Joe Gomez to come in, but then if he picks up an injury, then yeah, then we're in a bit of a pickle. So, um, but that's a saying for every season, though, unfortunately, because we've always had four centre backs in our team. We've never really had five. Maybe we've had that one odd season where we had Nat Phillips as your fifth choice. To be fair, technically we do have a fifth choice in Reece Williams, but I don't think he's of adequate quality. But it's just how it goes, I guess. And if you pick up these injuries here and there, like every other team, we just have to manage and try and find a solution on a game-on-game basis. So yeah, let's see what happens. January is not too far away, so hopefully, we can keep the squad fit. And of course, we haven't even seen Leone. Leone can come in and be a problem to the league and to Europe as well, because there's a lot of expectations in him. From what I've seen, I've been hugely impressed. I'm excited to see how he develops in our team. And I think because we didn't get Mark Gay, we may be able to play him in a lot more games, which probably wasn't planned earlier on. So I think we'll be fine. But I always try to not think too negatively about things like that. AR says, I don't care about other clubs' issues in Europe and Premier League. We have our in-house issues we need to resolve and talk about that. I don't think we have any issues like that. Of course, it's not nice that we've missed out um, in terms of Mark Gay, um, but we've got the numbers. We've got four centre backs, so on paper we're fine. So we've got to have confidence in our team. We can't just always just sign a lot of players and it's very difficult to satisfy a big squad. So I think we'll be fine as long as we can keep players fit. We should be in strong contention of progressing in the league as well as other cup competitions. LFC 20 said, would you drop Ibu for Leone for the Burnley game? See what the fuss is about. No, I wouldn't drop him for that game. I would continue playing Ibu there. Uh, I know the speculation isn't helping, but from the outside, it's just speculation. In the inside, it might be a complete different situation where maybe the club are calm. Arsenal might be calm or Konate might be calm in regards to the contract situation. We just don't know from the outside. So we're listening to these rumors and it's not helping us, in terms of the judgment. Uh, in regards to Konate, we don't know if he's going or staying. So um, I think based on football terms, Konate had a better performance against Arsenal. So I would like to keep him in the team for the Burnley game, but I would start Leone in our Carabao Cup game, which is against Southampton. So that's not too far away. Let me state the exact date. So that will be on the 23rd of September. So we've got Burnley, and then we've got Atletico Madrid. So I expect Ibu to start for that one. And then we've got the Merseyside Derby. I expect Ibu to be part of that. And then Southampton would be a great game to transition him into the first team, and then we'll see how he does there. So yeah, so that would be my way of embedding Leone to our squad. Russell on Forest, Rob Dursey at Sky said, I've been told no one has been lined up to replace Nuno, but Marinakis wants to move quickly. He must have someone in mind. He just probably hasn't told anyone at the club. He's just a one-man ship right now where he's just he's doing everything on his own and probably not consulting with anyone at the club, and he's just making his own decision because he'll probably rightly tell you that he's the owner. So yeah, he's making moves probably in the background. He's definitely got someone in mind, whether um, or not, remains to be seen. In terms of who he signs. Yeah, so this is a Liverpool football talk channel. Leeds United are a yo-yo club. Of course, we're a Liverpool channel, but there was a breaking news today, so that's why we're speaking about it today. Because I think it definitely surprised a few fans. Um, but yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with that uh, next appointment at Forest because Forest it's a difficult one to predict into how the season would have unfolded because last year they were really good in Europe. Sorry, planning for European place. Um, And I thought maybe they would go again and do that. But right now, there's definitely a bit of an issue there. So it might not be the case. Uh, Dorset has named, so that's Rob Dorset from Sky. He said Oliver Glasner, Iraola, Pochettino, and Marco Silva are widely admired by the Forest hierarchy. Glasner, if he leaves, that would be a complete mistake from a Liverpool point of view because he was one of the reasons why we didn't get Mark Gay over the line. So yeah, I'd be really peed off if he goes over there. I don't think he will, to be honest. Iraola, no, I don't think he'll go over there either. I think he's got a great foundation there where he's got the Bournemouth owners have full faith in him. So I don't think he'll want to leave a project where he's just started. And he's definitely improving Bournemouth as a collective. So I don't think he should move over there. I don't think he will, but from my point of view, I don't think he should. Pochettino, I don't know if he would be open to a move to returning to the Premier League. I know he's the US national team coach right now, and of course they are pretty much very spurred on the World Cup next year. So I doubt he would leave. And Marco Silva, if they were able to get him, that would be a fantastic appointment. But I don't think Fulham will let him go. Would Pochettino leave US role to come back to Prem? No, I don't think so personally. Um, and this is no disrespect to Forest. I think for Pochettino to leave his current job, it will have to be a project he can't turn down. And I don't think Forest is that kind of, in that kind of wavelength for him. I think because the World Cup is in America next year, there's a lot of expectations there. So he's probably fully committed to the national team. So I doubt he would leave. But you never know. Money talks. So maybe if he's offered um, a good sack of money, then maybe he'll leave his job and come back to the Premier League. But I don't think that'll be the case. So it'll be interesting to see who Forest tried to appoint. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Daz. Thank you to Russ. Thank you to LFC20. Thank you to AR as well. Appreciate your comments and appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. As I mentioned, nothing scheduled for tomorrow, but as always, hit that notification bell. So if I do decide to do a stream tomorrow, you'll be informed. And yeah, feel free to jump on and get involved in the show with your comments. We'll do a match preview, hopefully, for Burnley versus Liverpool, and then we'll do a live watch along of that game on Sunday. Just a few comments here. Russ saying, good chatting with you, Ozzy. Nice speaking to you as well, Russ. Thank you for sending your comments and thank you for tuning in. LFC20 says, big up Ozzy, big up yourself as always, LFC20. Yeah, saying bye to everyone as well. You'll never walk on. You'll never walk alone indeed. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.